Adding files to institutional repositories is a legal obligation set out in the clauses of projects financed by Fundação para a Ciência e Tecnologia, FCT, Horizon Europe, and other international entities that argue that research financed with public funds must be accessible to everyone. In accordance with FCT's open access policy, since May 5, 2014, it is mandatory to deposit a file of the articles developed with funded scientific research. To comply with this guideline, it is necessary for all authors to associate files in Scholar with all records that are in these circumstances. However, authors must take into account the contractual arrangements made with publishers and the rights retained by them. In this context, authors basically have three deposit options: the published version, the accepted version, and the submitted version. Published version. Documents that are in open access at publishers resulting from the payment of APC fees, or from journals that are in open access at no cost to the authors, have the deposit process facilitated. One must simply insert the published version file. Closed access. For documents that are in closed access at the publisher, it is necessary to know the journal's policy, what permissions they give, and what type of files it allows to add. In general, two types of files can be accepted: the accepted version or the submitted version. Most allow the deposit of the accepted version, and may sometimes impose an embargo period. To avoid falling foul of depositing the wrong file, authors can use a platform that defines the open access permissions of thousands of periodical publication titles. Sherpa Romeo. The Sherpa Romeo platform informs about the self-archiving possibilities of each journal, and the author, depending on the contract with the publisher and the rules of the funding entity, will be able to make decisions. As mentioned, most allow the deposit of a document prior to publication, be it the accepted version or the submitted version. We will now see the process of inserting various types of files. We have here a record, a document that is in open access. We can confirm this fact through the DOI, the Digital Object Identifier, with which we verify that it is a document that is already in open access, which means that we will be able to add the published version of this document in the repository. It's a very simple process, as we will see. We download the article, then we edit the record, and we position ourselves here in the area designated to insert the file, and by simply dragging it, we will add the file in Scholar. We now have to perform 2 or 3 steps. We say that the text is a full text, that the document is in open access. When we fill in this information, we are asked here to enter the correct information. In this case, it is no longer only metadata available, but open access. We can also include the information that we are dealing with the published version of the document. Therefore, this corresponds to the version of record, and we submit it. At this moment, this record already has the file associated with it, as we can see. A second situation is a document that may not be in open access at the publisher. Let's check, and we are here with the document published in 2022. And we will search through the Digital Object Identifier for the document at its origin. As we can see, this document is not in open access, because when it is in open access, it appears here. In the case of Elsevier, this indication is made through a little green ball. Therefore, this means that this article cannot be added in its published version in the repository. So what should one do? Publishers allow the accepted version to be added in the institutional repositories. What sometimes happens in some very recent articles is that the publisher imposes an embargo period. Therefore, what we recommend is that in these situations in which articles are not in open access and are very recent, we confirm whether we can insert the accepted version with or without embargo period. The way we can actually do this is to go to Sherpa Romeo and search for the title of the journal. Let's check it. And it'll tell us all 7 policies that they have regarding open access publishing. 3 are related to open access journals, in which we are not interested, as this journal is not one of these. So let's analyze what options we are allowed. And we see here that for deposits in institutional repositories, there is a 24-month embargo that must be respected. We'll be able to add the accepted version under a 24-month embargo. The document is already here on our computer desktop. Let's edit. Let's drag it. We choose full text, embargoed access, but we also need to add this information here. And when we enter embargoed access, it asks us for the date in which the embargo will be lifted. We know that the document is from January 2022. We will fill in January the 1st, 2024, and on January the 2nd, this file will be in open access. We now go up and check the publication version to see if it is in the accepted version. This means the accepted manuscript. And we click Submit. Let's now look at the situation of a document that is in closed access in the publisher, but the publication date is 2011. Let's confirm this information. We verify that it is, in fact, in closed access. We have access because we have access to the subscription service, but this is a document that is in closed access. And we will also ask the Sherpa Romeo database to find out whether or not there are embargo periods. We now look for our situation, which is we want to deposit it in the institutional repository, and we check that we also have a 24-month embargo. But when we are dealing with an article that was already published in 2011, there is no longer a need for an embargo period. So let's edit the record and drag the file to it. Now let's put this record in full text, open access, and rights type open access. We may also include the information here that it is an accepted manuscript. We submit it, and at this point, we will verify that this record is in open access and can be consulted by everyone. As you can see, inserting documents is a very simple process that is done by choosing and dragging a file. The most delicate issue is, without a doubt, the version that is archived. It could be the published version for documents that are in open access in the publisher, or if they are not in open access in the publisher, it is possible in most cases to insert the accepted version. Let's get to work.